The biggest mistake is not to make any mistake. Today we are going to talk about errors and error management. Hello and welcome to Communication Psychology and Human Resources. My name is Gerhard Orband. I'm a psychologist from Hamburg, Germany. Here in the Republic of Moldova, I work at the university, and I'm specialized in international, intercultural and multi-language contexts. Let's start from very far away, from William Shakespeare, often quoted sentence is from The Merchant of Venice, where at the beginning of the play Antonia says, "I hold the world, but as the world a stage where every man must play a part." And this quote is probably very familiar, the idea that we are in our lives actors, and how do we play our parts? So it would not be too far-fetched to assume that, at least in the business world, at our jobs, we certainly are actors. We have a certain role, a role description, we have an audience, we have a theater director or team leader or company director, and we have an audience, our clients, customers. And starting with this analogy, let's see what happens in performing professions, because actually in every profession at a certain level in communication we need to perform. If we are a medical doctor and we are interviewing patients, we are explaining things, we are coordinating with other medical staff, we are communicating and performing. And on the quality of the performance depends our outcome, the happiness, health of our patients, our salary, our reputation. So I think that's not a too far-fetched comparison. Now, if we look at performing arts, for example, you are an actor in the theater or an opera singer or an orchestra musician, or you play in a rock band. So what will you observe? There are at least two different phases of activity. You have the actual performance, the concert, the spectacle, the performance of the play, and you have preparation work, you have rehearsals. And what would happen if theater companies or orchestras would play without any rehearsals? Of course we could say, well, they are experienced actors and orchestra musicians, so the quality will not be catastrophic. You will agree. But the fact that world-class theaters and orchestras and bands still make rehearsals, even if very shortly, which actually they don't do, because orchestra musicians, they sometimes rehearse during the week for sometimes up to 8 hours or not more, and they have to practice at home. So the ratio between actual performance and preparation is such that the performance time takes up much less than the rehearsal time in any performing profession. The same goes also for professional sports. And the actual game or event is much shorter compared to the training phases. Now in the business world, where we also want our employees to perform at top levels, the ratio is dramatically reversed. So there the actual performance takes up almost 99% of the working day, and the rehearsal phase, they are sparse training sessions from time to time, once in a month, or we expect our employees to train on themselves. So what's the problem here? And the same analogy with theater playing and orchestra music. So if you don't have time to rehearse, then you will focus on surviving the performance with as little mistakes as possible. So for example, you may have a teleprompter and read from the teleprompter during the concert. There are some aging rock bands that need to do this already. You will avoid any kind of experimentation because you are so focused on avoiding mistakes. And your top goal is to survive this concert without any catastrophe. So your goal shifted from making an extraordinary performance and impressing the audience to just survival mode. And that's understandable, because if you're not familiar with this new orchestra composition, or you haven't rehearsed as a group, which is also a problem in a company, you need to perform as an ensemble of actors. Like often you need to interact in front of customers together with your team. And teams that are not well coordinated, it shows. The customer sees people don't know their places and their roles. So that's typically the situation that most of us have in the business world. So what does it mean? It means that we are sent to some training, but after the training, we don't have opportunities to continue the practice. For example, you have a role play in some kind of social skills training, like empathy or emotional intelligence. And then the role play, or your active part in the role play, because there are lots of other participants, is maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So is it realistic that those 5 or 10 minutes where you personally participate in the role play will dramatically change your performance level in playing or performing with and in front of customers? It's very doubtful, right? So actually, the training just gives ideas for how to train in the future. Now, how many companies continue a role-playing routine after such trainings? A rehearsal routine. So every orchestra, every football club, they have training routines and so on. And often managers complain that, well, we send everybody to a training, but nothing changes. Well, it's the same if you say your orchestra has to play every day in different compositions, and they never have time to rehearse, but once you send them for a 1-hour rehearsal, and you say, well, I don't see any quality difference in the performance at the concert. No? It's absurd, yes. So of course, in sales professions, large companies, some, not all, have regular role-playing sessions, maybe once a week, or top organizations even half an hour a day in some teams. But this is certainly not the norm for other departments. And even those companies that do this, how consequential do we actually do this? So if we want, on the one hand, because we have all different kinds of slogans of continuous improvement and Kaizen and all types of management philosophy, and we have mission statements and visions for our company that include permanent quality improvement. Well, we need to make a small audit where our employees actually can practice that. Because if we want to move somebody to a new level, this movement to the new level includes doing something differently. That means the employee needs to experiment. They are accustomed to a certain way of speaking, communicating. now we want them to be different. So there will be certainly an experimental phase. People need to try out how does it work for me? Like, you have a new play at the theater company. I need to try myself in this new role. Even the most acclaimed actors, they need time for that. So you want all your employees to become more empathetic. Well, they need to admit it needs to fit them. And they need to make experiments. And when we make experiments, we automatically make mistakes. But if the company culture, on the other hand, punishes mistakes, then the employees will shut down after each training, and they will not implement anything from the training. Very logical. So the question is, and please tell me your experiences, how can our team, how can our company include safe spaces for experimentation? And of course, you cannot make 7-hour rehearsals for 1-hour sales calls. That's absurd. But I think it's much more important to have a certain routine. And if you find half an hour every other day, you may observe that sometimes this half an hour shifts the productivity of a team much larger than if you send them once a year on a retreat or team building. So what's your opinion on that? I wish you much success, and we see ourselves, we see, that's from German probably, we meet next week. If you have questions, suggestions, please contact me. Bye bye.